Eggy Drago. I am the cream of the crop. I am the yolk on top. I'm a part-time video store clerk, a part-time brawler. Oh yeah, and a full-time human being. Wow. When I went to Tokyo back in February 2024, I went to an idol concert on a whim because my VTuber Oshi, who graduated, was into that scene. Needless to say, I got hooked. Yeah, I think we bought too many Checkies. After talking to a few idols, I realized every single one of them has a story, be it why they chased this dream, their ups and downs, and even their future after all this. And that's what I'm here to do. Learn more about the idol culture, the various scenes around the world, and to give them a platform to tell their stories. Every idol has a dream and a story to tell. This is IDOLEYEZ. Hailing from Planet Pinku, they have been into the J-pop scene for more than a decade. Being well versed into the scene, they are also a content creator who aims to help newer fans with things unique to the idol scene, such as Wotoge with their video series Idolpedia. But most importantly, they are a kaigai idol who has been primarily performing solo since 2018, and we'll be talking to them about their journey and the US kaigai idol scene throughout the years. All eyes on me. IDOLEYEZ Episode 3. Alex Pinku, Tuesday, May 21st, 8 p.m. EDT, 5 p.m. PDT, only on twitch.tv/EggyDrago. Oh, happened to the webcam. Oh, there we go. I am the queen of the quap, the yolk on top. I am mighty Eggy Drago, and we are here for IDOLEYEZ Episode 3 with our guests for tonight. They are an intergalactic royal hailing from Planet Pinku. They came down to Earth to enjoy life and teach people to live a little and enjoy the little things in life. They are Alex Pinku.
That's me.
That
a very good
is you.
description. Yeah, completely accurate. Somebody read my bio very well. Thank you.
How are you on this fine May 21st evening?
It is wonderful. The sun was out today. I was able to get my lizard in the sun time.
Oh,
and now
nice.
I get to be here talking about my favorite thing in the world, so I can't complain.
Idols. Yes. This is IDOLEYEZ, where we talk about, well, our guests' like journey as a kaigai idol, their origin story, their past, their present, their future, and we're gonna take you back to the past to think about, I guess, like the first time. Who or what got you into like idol culture or like J-pop culture in general?
Starting all the way at the beginning, huh?
Yep.
So for me, it started with Vocaloid. Well, actually, I mean, I was really into Miku and like Vocaloid music when I was in early high school, and then I was also really into Girls' Generation. And my friend in high school was like, "Oh, if you like Girls' Generation, you'll probably like Morning Musume," and told me to go listen to them. And I watched one music video, and that was like the end of it for me. It was all downhill from there. I like abandoned K-pop like as a whole. It was like, this is my entire life now.
That was it for K-pop.
Pretty much. I mean, I still like some stuff occasionally. And that like era of like 2009 to like 2012,
second
like,
gen.
Yeah, like holds a special place in my heart. I still really liked it, but I pretty much immediately was like, nope, this is my whole personality now.
What made you like gravitate towards Morning Musume though?
So for me, the first video I watched was their song called Mikan, which is like, actually at the time was their lowest selling single, which is really funny. But it's a very like inspirational song that like talks about like, you know, you only have one chance in life, you might as well make the most of it. And even in the music I was listening to at the time, even like some of the Vocaloid stuff I was into wasn't that upfront about having such a like unapologetically uplifting message,
Mhm.
and it really touched me. And also like all of the dancing and just like the silly aesthetics were like really appealing to me. Like I was already pretty big into dance at that point. I also was like really into perfume, and so it was like a pretty easy jump from that.
Right.
So I just was like, who are these women? I want to be like them.
Who's like your first Oshi in Morning Musume then?
My first was Risa, who was green at that time, I believe. She was the first person that stood out to me, but it was pretty quickly that I transferred. I Oshi Hend
Oshi hand.
uh,
Oh no.
to Sayumi, who is still my Kami Oshi of all time. Sayumi Michike. Who thankfully, even though she is a graduated idol, she is still active and does a lot of like she shows up at a lot of like Hello Project concerts still and has like a weird dinner theater show that she does. But I loved how again just like unapologetically like I am cringe and I am free energy that was happening. So I really love her a lot.
um, what? I mean, like, we are here because are an idol.
It's
What
true.
inspired you to become an idol?
So for me, I was really into J-pop music. I was really into Hello Project and Morning Musume and Perfume and all these groups for a long time, but it never really crossed my mind that it was something that I could do um, until it was really like two things. One, which I know one of your questions is going to be about the origin of my name, so I'll let that story come in a minute. But the other thing that happened was when I watched the anime AKB 0048.
Mhm.
Um, at that point, I got into AKB 48, which there are a lot more like everyday girls doing idol stuff, and it seemed a lot more accessible to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, this feels like something that I want to do. I was very inspired by like the type of work that they were doing. And it felt a lot more, like I said, accessible than other people. And that's like when I really started to dream like, oh, is this something that I'll be able to do someday? And it took a long time, but then I did start doing it.
See, was there like, I think like with Phoebe, they did a little bit of like vocal lessons or like, yeah, a lot of
Mm-mm.
vocal lessons, choir, I think. But for you, like, did you do like anything to like prepare as an idol? Did you like do any like performance art or like anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I made dance covers for like 6 or 7 years online before I started doing like idol work officially, I guess.
Mhm.
I performed with my dance group. Like I said, I made covers for a long time. I like started doing vocal covers. Part of the reason why it took me so long to become an idol in the first place was I was really self-conscious about my singing. I had really bad stage fright. If I had to even speak on stage, I would like start to have a panic attack. It was really bad. And so it wasn't until I saw some other kaigai idols doing the same thing that I was like, okay, maybe I can get over this and do it. So I started posting some vocal covers. They're really bad. They're unlisted now, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
um,
I think so.
but I was
Like,
really
yeah,
proud of like starting, right? Like you have to start somewhere and then being able to look back on it and being like, oh, I have improved. And that was a big part of it for me.
see. Well, you did say like the question already, but like, what was the origin of your stage name?
Yeah, so Alex Pinku. So one of the things that made me realize that it was possible to be an idol outside of Japan was I was a really big fan of the group Pinku Project, um, who were a idol group in Canada, and they had this like origin that they were from the planet Pinku, and they were really really cute, and I really loved them a lot. And a friend of mine in high school joked that if I was from Planet Pinku, that I would be the princess of Planet Pinku. And so I just started using that name online. It wasn't even what my YouTube channel was called when I was making dance covers. I actually don't even at this point remember what my channel was called. I don't remember who I was pre Alex Pinku. It just doesn't exist. But then, when I started to get a little bit of a following, it's just the name that stuck. I didn't mean to copyright infringe Pinku Project,
I mean, you
but
carried
now
on the
it's like an
legacy.
homage, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
I've seen one of their members liked a few of my Instagram posts once, and I was like, oh, well, if it's ever a problem,
I think they're cool with it, right?
yeah. I'm sure it's fine.
um, well, you did do like dance covers. You did do vocal
Mhm.
covers. I guess like like researching up on you, like you were in a dance cover group. What
Yeah.
was like your experience with that?
Yeah, so I had met DTP at a convention that I had gone to. I didn't know who they were prior to that. And actually, when I met them, they had auditions open. And to me, I had never danced with anybody else. I had only ever posted covers online by myself. Um, I think I had done maybe one cover with a friend of mine, but I like forced them to do it with me. So the idea of having like this big group of people that I could dance with was really exciting. So I auditioned and I got in. And it really appealed to me because they weren't an idol group by any stretch. Like we just wanted to bring people together in this like sense of community, and that sense of community became really important to me. And it's how I fell in love with performing really at the end of it. But I really hold those years really close in my heart. I really wouldn't be where I am today without being a part of that group. We like went to a bunch of different conventions, and like again, it wasn't about following or growth or like individual members or anything. It was just about like bringing people together and giving an excuse to dance.
Right.
Um and then I met, the best friends of my life through that group. So I'm very thankful for it.
So you were part of that group, but like
Yep.
you started to break out as a solo idol in 2018. How was that experience?
Scary. I had
Scary?
never really stood on stage by myself.
Hmm.
And I had never sang on stage before. So that's not true. I sang on stage once in a middle school musical audition. I bombed it. It was bad. But that's the experience. It's a canon event, right? It's
Yeah.
something that everybody has to go through. But I remember somebody was forming a Discord server, which at the time was called Overseas Idol Collection, but is now called the International Idol Network. And I asked to join because I just was really into idols. I was like, I'm not an idol myself, but I really want to be a part of this community. And I, at that point, found out about Starlight Idol Festival, which is the idol festival that Anime Week in Atlanta puts on. Um, and it was being run by friends of mine. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to give this a try and see what happens. And if it's bad, then it's bad. But if I like it, then I'll keep doing it. And it was such an amazing experience. And so from that point forward, I just started applying for any event that would take me. And the rest is history.
I see. So, I guess what was your like official solo debut like?
It was at that Starlight Idol
It was
Festival.
at that.
I think I that was the first time that I pinpoint as being an idol as
Mm.
opposed to just a dancer. Although that line is pretty watery. It kind of like it depends on each person. There are idols in Japan who only dance or who only sing. And some people, even in the US, consider themselves idols even though they're only dancers. But for me, like the pretty hard switch was at that point at that Starlight Idol Festival in 2018.
I see.
Mhm.
You said like you had like stage fright during that
Yeah.
or no? Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was bad. I had a pretty bad panic attack that day. It's something that I'm pretty transparent about because I think, I don't really get that nervous anymore because I'm pretty used to it. But for like the first few years, I would get so nervous beforehand. And most times I would actually like start crying almost immediately right after stage, just because I was really overwhelmed with emotions. Like for me, I feel my emotions at like 100% or like 10%. There's really no in between. So that feeling of like all that adrenaline hitting you, like it would just be really overwhelming for me for a really long time, in a good way and sometimes in a bad way if I felt like I didn't do well. So it really was like a process to get over that stage fright. And like I said, I still get nervous most of the time, but it's definitely not as bad as it used to be.
I see.
Mhm.
I guess I forgot to do the full circle moment, but full circle moment. The
Yeah.
first time I heard about you was when
Whoa.
I was searching up. Well, I was like trying to figure out how to do Woroge, and like how to do the standard mix and like all the mixes and stuff. Cause like I was planning to go to like my Kamiyoshi's like birthday live, and I had like no idea what to do. So I saw your video about the tutorials about like the standard chants and whatnot. But
Mm.
also this, I guess like the other time I first heard about you was looking at Pawn Ranger's like birthday
Oh
live.
yeah.
Yeah. It was, I think that was also like the first time I heard about Royal too. But like
Mm.
I saw you perform. You did great.
Thank you.
But yeah, I guess like I guess that leads into my other question. Like, how did
Mm.
you? I guess with the Discord server, but other than that, how did you like get interconnected with like the U.S. kaigai idol scene?
Um, I mean, because I, I was such a big fan of idols, the world was so much smaller. Um, even like I don't know, saying 10 years ago sounds crazy, but like at that time, there were so few people who were doing idol performances outside of Japan that I was following them pretty closely. So, like, I'm a really big fan of Melancholia. I've followed his work for like pretty much the entire time I've been on the internet. And through following a lot of his stuff, I've just naturally found other performers, but the Discord was a really big part of that. Looking through hashtags on Instagram when like Instagram functioned as a search tool, and just naturally videos being served to me on YouTube was like a really big way. But as soon as conventions in the US started having events with like Enemy Week in Atlanta having an idol festival, Otakon having an idol festival. Um, it's so much easier to meet new people and it happens a lot quicker. But most of those people, I mean, like I met Pon through the Discord because they were a mod at the time, and we met at I believe Otakon a few years ago, and it just kind of has naturally grown over time, and it's crazy to see how many people are participating at this point because prior to that like centralized community being made, it was so hard to meet other people who even liked idols, much less were also performers.
Let's see,
Mm,
I I guess like when you were just starting out, like
mm,
in 2018 or like around that time,
yeah.
I guess like what was it like starting out? Like how did you like garner an audience?
Um,
Yeah,
I mean, for me, like I really try to be really active in the community. So, whether it's interacting with my fellow performers or responding to comments or whatever that might be, or if people were coming up to me, like really trying to like learn their name and understand what they liked and what they want to continue to follow. Um, I hesitate talking about that because I feel like I never want to encourage anybody to interact with the community for the sake of networking or oh well if I like their stuff they're gonna like my stuff because it's not like that,
right.
and you should never seek interaction like that in my opinion. But at the same time, if you're interacting with the community, you're making yourself visible everywhere, right? It's a lot easier to be like, oh yeah, I'm Alex Pinku, and people be like, oh yeah, I've seen you, around or whatever it may be. And so I think that's a big part of it. A friend of mine was joking with me that like I end up people become a fan of my work and then I become their friend. Like I become friends with people really easily. And so I think that garners a little bit of trust that you grow with the people who end up following your work. And generally you attract like-minded people to whatever you're trying to do. So I think it just naturally builds that way.
See, I guess like for most kaigai idols, it's mostly like a passion project. Like they're not there to make money. But how did you like sell merch like when you were like starting out or no?
Um, no, I think that first year I didn't have anything. Oh, it's such a blur. Except for maybe Checky. Um, and I don't think I really started having merch until I released music, and then I had my single and like keychains. I was streaming pretty frequently on Twitch at that time, so I have like stickers of my emotes and um, it just kind of built up. But I had some stuff left over from Etsy stores that I had tried to do in the past because I also make art, and so I had tried to sell like pins and whatever, and I've just sort of translated that into selling for idol things. But I definitely didn't have merch at the time. I mean, I kind of assumed that nobody would know who I was, so why would they want to buy merch? And merch is like a pretty big investment in my opinion, and
Yeah.
I am, even as I've started other projects, I've had two other idol groups at this point now. I've always had the philosophy of like get people to care about what you're doing first, and then the demand for merch will be there and you can kind of meet that demand, as opposed to like debuting with a whole bunch of things, because it's hard to garner that interest, especially now that there's so many people. It's like you want to make sure that you're doing quality over quantity type of thing.
I guess like what if you had like if you had the infinite money glitch, what would be
Oh gosh.
like your dream merch to sell?
Oh gosh. I mean, I am a pretty big fan of like fashion and clothing, so I would love to have like whether it's like jewelry or clothing brand type stuff would be really cool. I've never sold like even t-shirts because I really want to be very intentional about if I were to sell that kind of merch, like I'd want it to be designed a very specific type of way. And obviously like clothing is such a big money investment, but whether it's like cool jackets or something along those lines, I think would be really fun.
See. I guess while you were performing, like what type of gigs did you do? Is it like mostly like cons? Was it like
Mm.
special like Japanese culture events, stuff like that? And how often did you like perform?
Starting out,
Yeah.
so when I started, I mean, even in 2018, I feel like the like landscape of what performance opportunities there were is different from how it is this year, even, and that doesn't feel that long ago. Um, but for the most part, it was anime conventions, whether that's in the hallways, whether that's at sanctioned events, or like running panels with that I performed at, because I would do like introduction to idol panels that then would have like a performance section where then people could apply the chants that I taught them and things like that. So that was the majority of it. There also was, at the time I was living in Arizona, and there were a few like Japanese culture events, like smaller ones that I would perform at. So that was the majority of it. And only very recently are there out of convention opportunities popping up. So it's like progressing in that direction, which I'm very excited about.
How about like we talked about like starting out, but like how about now?
Now it's pretty similar, but things like the event that you saw, Pond Ranger,
Pond Roger, new name.
Pond Rangers event. There's things that I'm working on. There's things that like Eternal Hoshi is working on. Um, Northwest Idol Fest, the Idol Party in LA. Like, there's a lot of these events that are starting to pop up that I think are going to give people a lot more opportunities. To me, I also come from like a kind of punk, like underground local music scene, and I would love to see the idol community kind of take inspiration from that and hold weird concerts in people's basements, like, I want to see more of that kind of energy, because I think that's how you grow like a good local community. So keep your eyes out, but
I
things
feel
are in the works.
I feel like when I went to like in to Japan, I went to like an off kai or like an off collab thing
Yeah.
with like an idol, and like they had like a birthday party, and like one person was there. They were from Australia. They were like a part of the like Sydney
Oh
Aussie
yeah.
idol scene, and they were asking me like, how was the U.S. like kaigai scene or the U.S. idol scene? I was like, it's kind of like a little spread apart compared to like Tokyo, where everything's like
Yeah.
centralized. Sydney, everything's centralized. Like everyone is everywhere, and like the only times like people can gather are like the big events like Northwest, like
Right.
Idol Party. Do you feel how would you like try to improve upon that, like congregate that that sense of community?
Yeah, it's really difficult for the US because the US has the unique problem of everybody being all over the place. So, something that I'm like actively trying to work on is focusing on local community. So, like for me, I'm one of the staff in the Tri-State Idol Union Discord, which is specifically for the Northeast. Um, and really trying to get people to get together and have this sense of community so that they're going to show up for each other. I think when you try to cast too wide of a net, I I said this recently and I keep carrying it with me that if you try to make something for everybody, it's going to end up being for nobody. And I think you have to start small with community building before you try to make it, this big nationwide thing. Otherwise, there's no exponential growth. It's just you're jumping way too big. Like Australia has this really cool tight knit community that seems to be able to hold these really frequent events, which is so cool to see. And it's something I definitely want to see emulated in the US. But I think we have to start really small and really focus in on where we currently are, whether that's like your city or your state or whatever that might be, because those are the people that are going to show up for you for an out of con event, which is a very high risk thing to do. When you do an event at a convention, you don't have to worry about the cost of putting on the show and having the equipment and doing all these things. But obviously, it's a high barrier of entry because somebody has to pay $80 for a weekend pass to go to
Yeah.
a show. So it's like pulling that out of convention culture, not entirely, we should still have it there, but like so that people can perform more than once or twice a year. Because when I started, I really was only performing twice a year, if that. And now I feel very fortunate that I'm getting the opportunities to do that more, but you can't really improve if you only have the opportunities to do it twice a year. So um, I think that focus will help grow new idols a lot faster and make our community a lot more tight knit. Things like the Annie Party events happening in the Northeast too. Like I think that makes everybody feel a lot more connected.
See, yeah, that was like one thing that like when I was talking to the dude from Australia, I was like it. There's people, but it's all spread apart. So I was like,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's hard. I mean, I think a lot of us now, especially people who might be a little bit older, who have like pretty stable jobs, are able to travel a little bit and, go to Northwest Idol Fest or go to the event in LA. But a lot of people, especially those who are younger, just don't have as much money, aren't able to do that. But they should still be able to have access to idols. And it's beautiful that we have the internet to be able to connect us in that way. It's a big part of why I make videos. But at the same time, you still want to be able to provide those opportunities. So I hope that only continues to grow. And I feel really hopeful about it. It's really cool to see the way that the community is growing.
I guess I like checking through your profile on PinkuPlanet.com. Shout out to PinkuPlanet.com. You
Right. The website.
you did perform in two, well, on the like the heavy spike of the pandemic. You performed in two events in 2020, one, two, three events in 2021. How
Mhm.
was performing during like the pandemic like?
Oh gosh. It was definitely hard. I think both the events that I did in 2020 were prior to March.
Uh,
One was in January and the other one I think was in March, like right before lockdown happened. And I remember at the second event was like this small anime market that was being held at a like a collector's store. And I remember at that event, like the person who was running the performances ended up not coming because they were really nervous about getting sick right before their trip to Japan. Like it was definitely starting to impact things. And then obviously in 2021, when conventions started happening again, um, it was really difficult to perform to a sea of faces that you couldn't see.
yeah.
I remember feeling really demoralized by that because obviously, as an idol, so much of what you're trying to do is connect with your audience. You're trying to make eye contact, give a little bit of like fan service, whatever it might be, and not being able to get that response back was really difficult for me. Um, the actual masking at conventions and stuff, I mean, I didn't get sick, so that's pretty cool. I'm pretty proud of that. Um, but I do remember that not having that like facial feedback was difficult. Um, and obviously like seeing less of your friends and being able to do events less was also really difficult at the time.
Did you do like any like digital events? I know like with Phoebe, she did a lot of like digital events where like
Yeah.
she was able to perform in like Sweden, but like also
Oh.
like via like Zoom or whatever, or
Yeah.
like
I think I
online and
did
stuff. Yeah.
two virtual events. And doing those events actually pretty solidified for me that I don't love making covers online. Like vocal covers. I really enjoy video editing and I enjoyed making some of them, but I find it a lot more stressful and a lot more high pressure to be really perfect because it's like a recorded performance as opposed to doing a live performance. I think there's a little more leeway for like human
Human interaction.
human interaction, and also just like you don't have to sound as perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect because it's not about being perfect.
Right.
But like a recorded cover with like an edited video and all these things, like it I put a lot more pressure on myself. So I didn't do that many of them after kind of like that first year of the pandemic because I was like, I don't think I'm very good at this. Or at least I didn't like it. And if you don't like something, you shouldn't do that. But I know that there are some events that still do virtual performances, and I think those are really cool and really great, especially for people who are still trying to figure out what exactly it is they like doing. And it's kind of a low stakes way to get into that and still like get to be a part of the community, especially if you can't go to conventions. So it's nice to see that that has still persisted at least a little bit.
Cause like coming from like a pro wrestling background, like during the pandemic,
Yeah.
with pro wrestling, it is very much you are feeding off like the crowd's energy. If they're like cheering,
Right.
if they're booing, you need that. But like when the pandemic happened, like there was no fans. Either there was no fans, or when fans started coming back, they were all masked up, could not cheer. You only had to like clap your hands,
Right.
boo, yay, cheer, whatever. That was it. And then like with idols or like with concerts, like you need that energy to like to feed off of that
Yeah.
energy to like perform, because like it's just a dead crowd. What are you gonna do? Like
Yeah. Idols without Wota chants
it's just
really sad.
dead silence. That's so bad.
I remember I watched my favorite idol group is the World Standard, and they had their I think 5th year anniversary in 2020 or 2021. And I watched the stream of it, and they didn't have anybody in the audience because it was just a stream, and it was so like it was still a very good performance, but you could tell that even they were like really struggling without having the audience to feed off of. And Japan like had a lot of concerts had a no call rule like into 2022 and 2023 even, which is obviously also really difficult.
It's yeah.
Even as a fan trying to watch concerts, because for a lot of people that's how they learn how calls work. If they can't go themselves, so it's really difficult.
I guess like another question. Like
Yeah.
you did perform as a solo. You do perform. I don't know if you still perform as a duo. Is that still a thing?
Yeah, so I've done a few different things. I have mostly performed solo. I was in a duo while I lived in Arizona for a while called Exploring the Cosmos, and that was really fun. When I moved away, we disbanded, but I have just started a new duo called Flare with a great friend of mine, Michelle, who goes by Sonadira in their idol life. But yeah, that has just started. We are just starting our duo journey, which is really exciting. Getting to perform with other people on stage is, in my opinion, just like leagues above ever performing solo. I love performing my music. I love performing by myself too, but sharing the stage with other people, I think, is what it's all about. So I'm very excited.
I guess that leads into my other question. Like, is there a benefit to performing solo, and is there also a benefit to like performing as a group?
Yeah, I mean, there are pros and cons to both for sure. Performing solo, I mean, you really get to have full reign over the artistic vision. Even writing music by yourself versus writing music with other people is like a very different experience. And it allows, I like doing both. Like, I'm going to continue to do both because doing stuff myself as Alex Pinku will look different than it will for what we plan to do with Flair. And the same thing is true for Michelle. And but getting to stand on stage with another person and work
Collaborate. No, no, that's
collaboratively
new word.
with collaborative with another person. We were even just talking about how when you have stuff to work on with somebody else, it makes you want to work hard for them. Like doing it for yourself, it can be hard to motivate and like feel like you're worth putting that effort in sometimes. I think all artists sort of struggle with that feeling. But when you have other people, it's like, oh, I want to work hard for them. I want to make sure that I can like pull this cover off or get this recording done. And so I think that's like a really special experience that I hope that even as a soloist, like doing like a one-off duo or getting to share the stage with other people for a festival or whatever, get to do, because it can feel a little lonely on stage by yourself sometimes.
I like seeing like a lot of like soloists. When I was in Japan, I did go to a lot of taipans, and like watching some of those soloists, like it is, I mean, like there's not a lot of room for error. Like you are the only person on there, all eyes on you, all eyes on them. And like if you screw up, if everyone's gonna see it. Like if you're in a group, like there's sometimes like there's sometimes like the other person can cover you if you like screw up, but like with solos, everyone's on you.
Yeah, it's a lot harder as a soloist, I think, to get the audience on your side. There's a lot more physical and kind of like metaphysical space on the stage that you have to take up. Singing an entire song, by yourself is really difficult. I as a callback, have covered Morning Musume songs and will say, this song is normally covered by 13 people, but I'm going to sing it alone. So, you know what I mean? And even splitting it up into two people, like the load is so much easier to handle. And so it allows you to be able to put on a much better performance, I think, which is why obviously in Japan, it's much more common to be a part of a group than to be a soloist. There's a lot more appeal. You can have different types of members. But obviously, when you're working outside of a company, and also when the US is so spread apart, it's so hard to find like-minded people to be part of a project with you. And so it's you have to be pretty particular about that kind of thing. So I'm excited to see more groups come up as the community continues to grow, because we are a very soloist heavy community at the moment, which isn't a bad thing necessarily, but I want to see more people collab for sure.
I think like Phoebe said the same thing. Like she would want to like be in a group, but there's like no one in her area to like be in a group with. But like, yeah.
But selfishly, I mean, if you continue to work on your local community, maybe someday there will be, people joke that a lot of the current idol events are run by idols, and it's because they wanted to make opportunities for themselves to perform, and then as it continues to grow, they sort of like grandfather themselves out of it so that they can build performances for other people. But I mean, there aren't opportunities, so then they start building them for themselves.
Let's see, I guess like going with like all the performance talk, like what was the toughest gig that you've done?
Probably I did twice actually perform at that collector's shop that I had mentioned. It was a huge store that sold like all kinds of nerdy collectibles, between like comic stuff and anime figures and Gunpla and all that kind of thing. And they had this big outdoor space that they would put on like basically like a mini artist alley at, but they had a stage that people would perform at. But it was outside, and this was Arizona.
Oh, it's hot.
Summer. Well, it wasn't the summer, it was spring, but from like February to October is pretty insufferable, if I'm honest, in Arizona. So I did I think it was a 45 or 50 minute long set in the sun, and that was probably the most physically taxed I've ever been. I still had a lot of fun, but I think I almost died.
You must have like been drenched, like
yeah,
like oh my god,
bad.
that's oh my god.
It was very sweaty. So I outdoor performances like have a very special set of hurdles that you have to go over even in a normal circumstance, but much less in the middle of the desert. I wouldn't super recommend it.
I mean, like I don't think I've ever seen, like, being in Nevada. I've never seen like a concert outside. Well, like an actual like
Yeah.
soloist perform outside, because like in the summer it's like 110,
Oh,
115. Like
yep.
it's crazy in the summer, but like yeah, no, like it being that hot, no, no.
Yeah, it's not safe, I don't think. And then also like especially if you're singing live, like doing outdoor venues is really difficult. Even I performed at Sakura Matsuri in DC last month, and it wasn't hot. It was super windy that day, but even just an outdoor venue, sound carries so much differently. It's a lot more difficult. It's fun in its own in a different way than performing at indoor venues, but uh, yeah, I think people underestimate. That's why when people criticize like professional idols at like Coachella
Oh
or
yeah,
at
yeah.
these like outdoor huge festivals, I'm like, if you've never done it, I don't want to hear it because it is so difficult to hear yourself and to hear the music and everything. It's a completely different ball game in my opinion.
Sure, like the Let's Seraphim stuff was like easy to hear
Yeah,
about.
it's insane in my opinion.
Going from toughest, what was like the weirdest gig that you've done current
The
as of
weirdest
right now?
one.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Um, that's a good question.
Cause like with Phoebe, it was like a place where there was a lot of weed smoke, and she almost had an asthma attack.
Yeah,
Um,
that I could definitely see that. I mean, the I performed this isn't that weird, but at Teco, which is an anime convention in Pittsburgh, which is my hometown. Um the way I don't know if it's still set up this way because I haven't gone in a few years, but the way that the stage is set up there, there's like a huge wall of windows, like not even, you know, 100 yards away. And so when the sound was bouncing off, it was like creating this very weird echo effect that made it really difficult to sing in time with the music. And it was like to the point where it was kind of funny. And it made it really difficult. So I'm like just thinking about like weird things that have happened, and that's definitely like pretty top of the list. But performing outside of anime conventions is always a little weird. Like performing at that collector's shop, or I also, you know, at Japanese festivals in general, people who might not even have anime knowledge, much less idol knowledge, you always run into people who are a little skeptical of what you're doing or might not get it, and that always provides like a kind of weird experience, like Phoebe running into weed smoke at
some
at a
event,
performance.
yeah.
You're like, this is not typical.
I guess. Well, speaking of like Idol Fest coming in like 5-6 months, we have the Northwest Idol Fest in Seattle. I'm pretty sure like you, Phoebe, and a couple other people are like have appeared in like all Northwest Idol Fests. What was it like being from like the first event coming to like 2023 and like I guess to now? Like how was
Yeah.
that like
It was really interesting because so it's me, Phoebe, and Jenny. Jenny Bun were the first idols that were at the first year, and we've been at every year since. And I remember when Jenny and I found out about Northwest Idol Fest, somebody was promoting it at Otakon that year, and we immediately were like, okay, we have to go. Because we just wanted to go to anything that was like supporting the idol community, and it just seemed like such a special event. And the difference between that first year and even last year is so big. Like it's in the same event space, it's the same number of rooms, really, but the vibe just continues to grow. The scale continues to grow. The passion that all of the staff for that event have is something that has always made me feel really safe there, which is something that I haven't always felt at, you know, regular anime conventions. So, obviously the performances get bigger, the stage has gotten bigger, but really like the passion for that project seems to have grown, and I am really enjoying watching as this shift sort of happens to get more people involved in that event. But it, I'm always promoting it to people because had- I look forward to it every year. I've got blisters on my hands from wotaing the whole weekend. Like I kept telling people during, I think it wasn't this last year, but the year before, the the Northern Lights Festival was like 2.5 hours long or something, and even after performing, like I was at the front like screaming the whole time. And somebody was like, "How do you have energy for this?" I was like, "This is what I live for. Like this is the type of thing that I want all of the time. So I'm not passing up on the opportunity to like scream about it, even if it means that I'm gonna be dead all day tomorrow. Like, I gotta take it while I can, you know." So
That's like, for me, like being, I guess like the first experience for me was like not being in a US like Taiwan, but it was like in Japan, like
yeah,
getting to experience like that energy, being in the crowd, like cheering on like your favorite idol, and like having like
yeah,
the wota, the I stick, there we go, doing that, doing
yeah,
just waving it, feeding their energy, doing like the crowd dances, sometimes running in a circle, stuff like that.
yep,
That's what I miss about, like, I mean, like I am going to Japan like in February, but I miss like that. I miss that feeling of like being in a concert like that, and that's why I'm
yeah,
like going to one idol party, and I'm like planning to go to Northwest, because like
yeah,
I wanna like experience that again, and like
yeah,
I want to see how, I guess, the US scene can like do do what Japan does. I mean, like, yeah.
yeah. It's it's really, I tell people all the time, even if you're watching videos of it, until you see it in person, it's a completely different thing. Like being able to cheer with people next to you, the running in the circles, the pen lights, like seeing the sea of pen lights, like all of it. Obviously in Japan, it's a lot less niche. It's still pretty niche, but it's a lot less niche than it is here. So it's still a different experience. But as it continues to grow, like even watching again, like the Annie Party people in the Northeast, like put on these events where people are doing all the same stuff that happens at idol concerts and doing even the more complex stuff than what happens at idol concerts versus, you know, Northwest Idol Fest where everybody's cheering and everybody, even people who have never done it before, are learning along the way. Like that's how you learn and that's how the community grows. And I'm like addicted to that, to the like idol concert experience for sure.
Like, for me, like I do try to support like Kamiyoshi, who like performs in Japan, and like whenever they have streams or like streams of like their live performances, I always
Yeah,
like go there. Like it's not the same. It's not the same like compared to like being in the
no.
crowd, because like you're, I guess, for me it's just me spamming like the chat, being like,
Yeah,
woo,
the
yeah,
heart icon over and over
heart,
again.
yes. But like I kind of just miss like waving this, and like
Yeah, and
it.
it's so it's such a symbiotic relationship that I think is different even from regular concerts that happen. Every time I go to like I say normie, but even then it's like
Normie.
a regular concert, a non-idol concert, I'm like, I need the energy up. Why is everybody not, you know, cheering? Like if there's like a song that has claps in it and everybody claps along, I'm like, you all would love idols. You know what I mean? Like it's such like a special feeling to like collaborate together and get to create this experience. It's not just about the people on stage, and I think you can't really experience it unless you are there doing it.
For sure. I guess like going way back, but like what I guess like what other musical influences other than like J-pop
Mm.
do you consider?
Yeah, so I love pop music in general. I like a lot of electronic pop music, as well as a lot of like pop punk and like post punk type music things. My favorite artists are like My Chemical Romance since I was like 12. Still my favorite band, but I follow a lot of, similar angsty music. I joke that if I can't blast it out of my car, I'm probably not going to listen to it. At least I'm not going to reach for it a lot, and that's true for idol music too. I'm gonna blast it out of my car and have all the windows down, and it's gonna be a great time. Um, but I love there's a Canadian artist named Lights that I love a lot who makes a lot of like electronic pop music. I'm a big fan of like Perfume. I really love the Japanese artist Daoko as far as like non-idol influences go. Um, yeah, I would say that those are like my biggest. For my solo work, I really am influenced by like angsty music that still feels kind of idle. It feels like that sort of expression for me.
Cause like going way back, another callback, but like when I watched Pawn Ranger's like birthday, I saw your performance, and then you did I think No Thanks to You, and I was like, whoa, pop punk! I haven't
Yeah.
heard an idol do pop punk before. I'm like, well, yeah, that's awesome.
So at that performance, I did "I'm Not Okay" by My Chemical Romance, and I thought it was really funny. I thought it was like sort of like a tongue-in-cheek moment of like making MCR idol, but also a lot of idol culture, like the calls, furikake, like a lot of wotage comes from Visual K and like indie rock stuff in Japan. So it makes sense that it flows into that type of music too. Like you can mix to MCR, and I think that's really cool. And I'm really passionate about showing people that idol music is not just AKB48
Yeah.
or, you know, these kawaii groups. Like I love that music, don't get me wrong, but idol is not a music genre, it's a performance style. So there are pop punk idols, there are metal idols, there are all genres that you can think of doing it in the idol style. As long as you can fit a call in it, it's gonna work. So I like being able to share that side of it, and then like people get this like nostalgia hit, obviously, hearing old music like that. Old, God.
Oh, oh,
But
my heart. I feel
yeah,
old.
sorry.
But I guess like going after with your influences, I guess I watched, what was it? Like you did like a video on the process of writing like your first original songs. I think you said like you had like 5 years of prior songwriting
Yeah.
experience, I think. But what was it like writing like your first original songs as an idol?
So prior to when I started performing, I've played guitar for a long time. I'm really not very good at it, but I bought a ukulele, like when that was a trendy thing to do, and learned how to play it. But what was nice is that it was a instrument that had like a low barrier of entry, and it was really easy to write music on. So I had been writing songs, just not really planning to do anything with them. I actually uploaded a few of them on my YouTube channel. They're unlisted now. They've turned into other songs, but I just was like sharing things because I thought that it was fun to do. And it was when I decided to write No Thanks to You, and I was like gonna release a song as an artist and not just like a random YouTube video. I was able to pull from those experiences of like, it wasn't my first time writing lyrics. I did work with a producer who wrote the instrumental, but I provided like, these are the this is the music I'm inspired by. I had a playlist of like the types of songs that I wanted No Thanks to You to be like, and going through that. But I had been writing, you know, bad music for a long time, and that's, again, it's like a canon event. It's part of the process,
Right.
to, you know, be able to continue to improve as like a songwriter. Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, you always, even like with anything, like it, as like, as like a chef, you, or like, I guess like going after the pro wrestling thing, you're always gonna have like poo poo matches, or like you're gonna have like bad performances, but you learn after like all of that
Right.
to like sculpt like a good thing, a good like finished project after that, you know, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I always tell people like make bad art. Bad art is like is so valuable just on its own, but you have to make bad art before you can make good art, and you're never going to be able to notice when that transition actually happens. You can only see it in hindsight. And truthfully, like part of the reason that I love idols is because a lot of the times they're kind of bad, and a lot of the times they're also not bad. They're very skilled, but I think it's really endearing when like an idol can't sing and you get to watch that journey of like watching them get good over time, or it just improve, or they don't, and they just own it. And again, I am cringe and I am free. I think that that's like a really beautiful thing to get to experience. So don't be afraid to put that art out into the ether, you know.
See. So we went from the past, we went to the present, we are in the present. We are now going to the future. The future! Time travel! I guess like being like in this scene for quite a while, what advice would you have to like upcoming kaigai idols or like people still like, you know, in the scene?
Right.
Like what would you like tell them?
I'm actually working on a video talking about this exact thing.
Oh my
Hence,
god, let's
I just have to find the time to finish editing it.
let's chill
But
your YouTube channel. There we go. Yeah,
I
subscribe.
appreciate it. But I see people ask this all the time, whether it's in Discord or online, is like, how do I start, or like, what should I be doing? And to me, the biggest thing is two things. One, I think the concept of a debut is super overrated, because all it really does is put a lot of pressure on you to like have this perfect performance as like your first performance. And frankly, your first performance is not going to be perfect, or maybe good. Who knows? Depending on how you're approaching it. We can't all be royal and come out with like an amazing debut performance. If there's one royal fan, it is me. But it's really experimenting and allowing yourself to experiment, whether that's like with image or the type of performances you want to do, the type of genre that you want to do. Like, don't be afraid to just try things. A lot of people feel like you have to have this like perfect brand and like character and like an idol sona and all this stuff. And to me, like, none of that matters. Just start making things and you'll figure it out as you go along. But also doing a ton of research. If you are just getting into idols and you don't really know where to start, I try to make a lot of content to get people into idol groups that they may not have heard of before. There's, you know, the Discord servers that exist. There's different Instagram accounts that promote idol events, and just doing a lot of research. Watch other performers, consume content, consume idols, what they're doing on TikTok, what they're doing on YouTube, follow them on Twitter, because that's really the only way that you're going to figure out like what your options even are as a performer, and also what types of things you like, so that then you can implement that into what you're trying to do.
Research. I need to do more research. Like being still like three months into the scene. No, 4 months into the scene.
Oh, gosh.
I can't wait. February, March, April, May. 3 months. There we go. I can't count. I love math. But yeah, I should probably do more research on like more groups, because like I just stick to like
It takes time.
I just stick to my Kamiyoshis and like 2 other groups I saw on Taibans, but like yeah.
That's honestly part of why I like making content, is because I fall into that habit too of just supporting my few best girls, and then I fall blind to a lot of other really good things out there. So it forces me to also experiment, and see what else is out there. But you know, as soon as you start teaching your algorithm that that's the kind of content you like I get offered idol groups I've never heard of on YouTube all the time now, which is really great. Or like on Twitter, on my For You, I'll get different groups that I haven't heard of promoting their single or whatever it might be. And so it's a really good way to find new groups to follow and again, figure out what you like.
I think for me, like one group that I really like stand was like Oiran Dochu. So like for me, there was another group that I really liked, which was Tokyo Oiran Story, which sadly disbanded, but one of the members is currently in another group called Crazy Fantasy and Crazy Fantasy. But like I tried to like search up Tokyo Oiran Story, and like this one specific group came up. It was like Oiran Dochu, and I was like, oh, what is this? And I clicked the MV. I'm like, oh my god, this is so good. I will stand them. So that was like,
you're mine now.
You're mine now. So just like accidentally finding them during like another search for another group. That was like one way I found a new group to stand. But like, yeah.
It makes sense.
I guess like, how has like the landscape of like kaigai idols compared to like 2018, 20 whenever, compared to like now? How has it like changed?
It's interesting because I feel like when everybody started, or like when the community was starting to become a more centralized thing, right? Like it wasn't 3 or 4 performers scattered about that sometimes performed at conventions. Um, it was very much like, first of all, it was very cosplay focused, and it still is kind of cosplay focused, but there was this big mentality of like cosplayers versus original idols, and it's very competitive. And I feel like now everybody's sort of accepted that they are different things and they're looking for different things and they have different goals, but at the end of the day we all love idols, so we should all just support each other. And so that's really nice to see. But I think also the kaigai idol community, thanks to a lot of the forerunners of the community who have really put it into the nerdy cultural zeitgeist, is like starting to form its own culture, which is interesting to see. I actually wrote on my blog that I used to write on a long time ago, a thing likening it to the Lolita community. And when Lolita became really popular in the West, you started to see it start to form its own culture, even separate from Japan, where like there were indie brands and different styles that were happening that weren't happening in Japan, and just forming its own thing, which I think is really beautiful. And I'm starting to see that within the kaigai idol community now, where like certain calls are really popular among kaigai community that I don't necessarily hear when I watch videos in Japan, because I haven't been to Japan in a few years. But um, I can see the differences in like what seems to stick out in our community versus Japan, and really just like developing our own culture, whether that's as fans or even as performers. But I'm seeing a lot more original idols pop up, which makes me really excited. People who are feeling encouraged to make their own music, as opposed to just staying as a coverist. And I think that that's really what's going to launch us to people taking the community more seriously. Not that you have to make original music to be taken seriously, but I think that it brings a lot of people in who are excited by that concept, to then it just benefits everybody. So it's been a really cool development.
Like for me, when I was like, I guess like pre-idolized, I was like doing like a wrestling special, but like I
Yeah.
was trying to like introduce like idol music to like my viewers, and like
Mhm.
I was trying to look for people with original like music that they produce so I can like put it into the matches and stuff. Yes, Section
Right.
Eggy, shout out. But like a lot of I guess like a most I don't know, like a slight majority of people just have like covers and stuff, or
Yeah.
like do dance covers to stuff, and like not have a lot of original music, which like is fine. But I do +1 for like having original stuff, because like
Yeah.
yeah.
It's definitely hard, right? Like the barrier of entry is pretty high. Most people probably don't have experience producing music, so they have to commission somebody to do it, which is incredibly expensive. Even the concept, I know for me, for a long time, it felt like making music was this big untouchable thing that like I would never get to do because the barrier of entry was so high. And I think it's gotten a lot easier over time as more producers kind of enter the idol community and the idol space, or people start to learn how to do it themselves. But it's hard to do. So I don't blame people if they don't have music, and or if they just aren't interested in doing that and they just want to be a coverist. But it is really nice to see it become more accessible for sure. Because I agree with you. That's what I like the most, is hearing the artistry that people put into their own vision versus just covering stuff.
Yeah, because like that's what, because like years ago, that's what like drew me into like Phoebe, like being
Right.
like not into like kaigai idols, but like being into
Mhm.
like the VTuber scene. Like
Yeah.
hearing like
Mhm.
Phoebe's like original stuff is really good, and like that's like the draw for
Yeah.
me.
I think too, it's interesting the perspective, whether you're coming into the idol scene from VTubers or from anime or from like just J-pop idols. Like for me, I was into like 3D IRL J-pop idols before idol anime or VTubers or anything else. And so for me, like I'm really drawn to the like people aspect of it as a result, I think, versus somebody who's coming in from like Love Live or Idol Master or whatever. Like they're very um, driven by like those IP and covering those IP, or like those characters specifically. Um, and there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but I think that everybody then comes at it with like a very different perspective. Or VTubers, same concept. And so it gives us like an interesting melting pot of things that I don't know it necessarily happens in Japan. Because I haven't been in a while, like the Chica, so far Chica that they're just coverist land. I don't know how much that happens versus the level that seems to happen in the US, as far as like the idol any song
I feel
overlap.
like out of like the 6 Taibans I went to, I probably recognize like maybe like a few coverists.
Okay.
There's like some people that do like original stuff. I like last night I saw like my Kamiyoshi do like mostly her whole set was like half original stuff and like half like cover stuff. Like I don't think
I don't think it's as common. I still think they do it, obviously.
yeah.
Especially at like indie levels. But especially if you're like just getting into J-pop idols, like it's obviously going to be mostly original content. So it's good to see us mirroring that, I suppose, a little bit more.
I was gonna ask, like, you did mention like going to Japan. Like, how many times have you gone to Japan and stuff?
I've been twice. I went in 2015 and then in 2016, and I have not been since, which is really upsetting.
Have you gone to like any Taibans and stuff or no?
No.
No. Oh no!
It's so
You-
sad. I've been to, I saw an idol performance. Actually, I saw 2 idol performances, just like out in the wild. Whether it was like on the street or like there was like a festival happening at one point. And I've been to the AKB Cafe, but no, unfortunately, the people that I went with the first time weren't super interested in idols at the time. And then the second time I went to Japan, I was there for 5 weeks, and I almost went to a concert, and I didn't, and I still regret not going. But every year I'm like, this is the year I'm gonna go back to Japan, and I'm gonna go to all the idol events, and it has not happened yet. Also, Universal Japan, because I really want to go to Super Nintendo World, but that
yeah.
that's a separate thing.
Yeah, that like being in Japan, like going into those Taibans was like the thing that pretty much I guess like kickstarted this thing, IDOLEYEZ.
Yeah.
So
I'm pretty jealous of you that you've been into idols for 3 months and you've done more idol activities in Japan than I have.
oh my god, I'm insane basically because like I went.
I love that.
No, I went like what late February, and then I saw like on Twitter, I saw like someone was having like a birthday like concert, and they were like, "Hey, if I don't get like 50 people at this concert, I'm gonna graduate." And like I was like, "Oh my god!" And then I booked another trip, and like in like late March, yeah. And then I went to that concert, and then they became my Kamiyoshi. So I'm insane, but like that was technically I was like still in the Philippines, so the flight was a little bit cheaper, but like man,
still
that was so
Power
much
idol
money.
tells you for sure. I love that though. That passion is such like a beautiful thing that I think is pretty unique to idols too. Just like feeling that like, oh, okay, I have to do everything I can to support this group. For example, I hate even like verbalizing this into existence, but I haven't seen the World Standard yet, and they are my favorite idol group. And I'm like, if they were to announce disbandment, like I would max out my credit card. Like, I would go tomorrow. And that's like, you know, people could call it parasocial, they could call it like unhealthy, but I think if you can manage your own boundaries with those kinds of things and just like acknowledge that having that kind of passion, I think at its core is a pretty beautiful thing that we should all foster a little bit more.
Because like for me, being like an overseas fan and like my Kamiyoshi just like forms in Japan and whatever. Because like I do like buy whenever they have like stream concerts, I always buy it. Whenever like they have like checkies, I always buy it. Whenever they have like they have these things called like with lives where like you can chat for them for like 5 minutes and like they're like kind of cheap anyway. So like I try to support them as much as I can because like I'm not there. I can't like go to every single like Taiban. Right. I can't like splurge on like checkies there. But like I try to support as much as I can as an overseas fan, which sucks because like you're not there. But like it's as much as I can do,
Right, and I think that that's why trying to foster local communities as much as possible is, trying to replicate that feeling of like going to a Taiban, being able to see 6 groups and then immediately go talk to them, get a checky with them, and then you have this little souvenir of that you get to carry with you. Like I have a bulletin board full of, you know, all of my checky and being able to look back on that. Like that's such a specific experience that I really want to replicate in the US and like show people how much fun that can be. And I'm just like shaking with enthusiasm for it. Like I want it to happen so bad. So
Checkies are like the lifeblood of like Thai bonds. That's how you support them, and like
right.
my Thai bond check. That's how you support them. And it's so cool.
Yeah.
Like being able, like they do date like and
Right.
have like an actual memory of like when it what happened there. Cool. It's
Right. Like I have these are our flare checky that we took, and I have kept for myself. Just remember, and it's just such a nice thing, and being able to do that at a local scale and not have to spend $1,500 to fly to Japan would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
in my opinion.
that's why I want that. That's like I guess like the main objective was of this like show was to like actually give people a platform and then try to elevate the whole scene.
Yeah.
To be honest,
Absolutely.
even though I'm like some small fry, some level 1 dude, just trying to trying to do a thing
I
here.
think you're level 1. You're past level 1. You're higher than people who have been into it for years. I think at this point. I mean, you got a book full of checky.
Yeah, but like,
But I mean, that's a big motivator for me too. Like, I wanted to start making content, even selfishly, so that I could have more people to talk to about idols. I joke that like I get my friends into video games that I like playing just so that I have people to play with. It's the same concept. It's like I want more people to enjoy this so that I have more people that I can hang out with that want to talk about idols. I mean, I also just want idol culture, but like,
yeah, like most of my friends, they're like into K-pop, but like
right.
they can't relate because like they haven't
Not
seen
the
them
same.
before. It's not the same. Yeah, it's not.
the
I guess like, what's your main goal as an idol now?
It's a good question, and something that I was like really asking myself a lot last year specifically, because for a long time my goal was to make music, and I still have music I want to make, but I felt like, oh, I had already done that. And then I really wanted to guest at an event, and I was lucky enough to guest at Northwest Idol Fest last year, and I want to continue to do stuff like that. So I was really asking myself, like, what am I aiming for now? And I think a big part of my motivation at this point is like educating the community, educating new people on what idols are, introducing people to idols, like trying to spread that like authentic idol experience in the US is something I'm really passionate about. And I think that people who are specifically into any indie music scene can really resonate with it if they give it a chance. But I still have goals as a performer and things that I want to accomplish with my group, and continue to do. I know that once my performance life kind of dies down, I could really see myself like transitioning into a more like idol manager sort of event runner kind of role.
See.
It's something I've aspired to and wanted to do for a while, but obviously when you're doing your own performance stuff, it's hard to put more on your plate. But I really love talking to people who have that like newbie passion for idols, whether you're a fan or a performer, and being able to like foster that, I think is really special. So I hope someday I'll be able to do stuff like that.
I was gonna ask like what were you do as after being an idol, and then
Right.
it explain like idol manager, which does, I guess like that does like go into like when I talked with Phoebe, like there was no like really not a lot of like female managers in like the idol scene, especially in the kaigai, especially in Japan.
Right.
But like yeah, there's definitely a need for female managers for sure.
There
Stuff.
are, but also I think like especially in the overseas community, there's really only a handful of people who have managers, period.
Right.
Or any sort of staff backing them. Almost everyone is doing it themselves, myself included. Like every single step of the way, aside from like commissioning artists and things like that. And so having more structure and people who are able to help guide that process, I think it would be really cool if we could have like an idol centered music agency or like music distribution thing. Like if I were to really aim high, like I would love to work on something like that. Um, but I think we're still, a little far away
Far away
from
from
being
that,
able to
yeah.
have something formalized. But um, I there are a lot of idols that even in Japan who graduate and then become producers or managers of their own idol groups, and I foresee myself being a wota until the day I die. So I will be steeped in it even when I'm not a performer anymore. Which who knows when that'll be? I still foresee myself doing it for a long time. So
Um, what's like one dream, or like what's a dream venue or like dream convention that you want to like perform at?
it's a good question because for me, I really love small events. Um, I think my favorite performances that I've had have been on small stages. Um, the big fancy stages with all the lights and stuff are really fun, but like usually the audience is dark and you can't really see them anyway. And to me, that's like 80% of the fun. Um, so I feel like I sound like a broken record, but I feel like my dream right now is to perform at like a standalone concert in like a weird church basement or something. You know what I mean? Like I want to see those standalone events become like a more normalized thing. I've never done a solo concert like outside of a um, convention before, and that would be really really cool to do. Whether it's just myself or like in collaboration with other people. Not necessarily a tie bomb, but like more of a one man type of deal. I would really love to do that. Event wise, performance. I mean, I would love to perform at Anime Expo. That their like community stage is really cool, and I've seen performances at before. Are there other like anime events that I'm interested in? I would love to travel internationally and perform like with the Australia scene or like some of the folks in the UK. That's definitely on my sort of idol bucket list right now. Is I would really like to go visit. I have quite a few friends over in Europe that I would love to perform with and really just see in general. So I feel like that's maybe my next step once I get more PTO.
I guess like any like future gigs like in like the couple upcoming months,
I mean, yes.
but you can't say.
Not any that I can super
Ah,
unveil the details of. But I will be at Techo this year in Pittsburgh. That is next month, I think, or July. I don't know. Time is fake. I will also be at Otakon in some capacity or another. And then from there, we shall see. But I definitely have a lot of performance plans this year and hopefully more on the horizon. So if you want to see more from me, definitely follow for those sweet, sweet updates.
yes. Time to bring in the Pinku commit.
Let's
Yes.
go.
Yeah. YouTube, Twitter, and your website. Go there.
Go follow me. Yeah, I you saying that made me realize I need to update my performance list on my website, but definitely the site has a list of my music and photos and performances and all that kind of stuff. It's like a great centralized place to see the stuff that I do, but I also obviously post YouTube videos introducing people to Wota culture and idol culture. I'm trying to do more of those and really be intentional about it, trying to upload stuff on Twitter and Instagram, even just like short content. So um, hopefully I'll see any of you that aren't already there soon.
As a bonus question,
Yes.
as like someone who's still new into the scene,
Yes.
like, and there's like definitely a couple other people like watching that are
Mm-mm.
still like learning about this, the kaiga idol scene,
Yep.
maybe like in like the J-pop chica idol like scene in general. Like, what are some like chica or in general like idol groups that people like should check on or check out?
So, Chica wise, um, and for those who don't know, Chica groups are like underground
Indie.
indie idols. They're not like signed usually to big companies or anything like that. My favorite group is called .bpm. Um, they just recently added like 4 new members and just released the new MV with the new members called Boom Boom Bee. It's very, very catchy. They're little bees and they like go like this a whole bunch. It's very cute. I really love them a lot, and they're super like active on Twitter and will interact with you and stuff, which is always my favorite. I also really have been into Mad Medicine recently, who are more popular. But they have like kind of a more edgy vibe about them, and they have like really intense electronic music, which I really like. And I've over the last like year or so become a really big fan of all of the groups under the like Heroines uh project agency. I don't know how else to put it. They have like 10 idol groups, or probably more at this point, underneath of them, but like iLife is a really big one. They a lot of their songs went viral on Twitter, or not a lot, but a few of their songs. And they have one member named Ice, who I've been
Ice?
obsessed with. Yes, her name is Ice. I don't know. Listen, it's funny because my favorite member from Mad Medicine is named Jam, so I keep like Oshiing these like
It's the food.
food-related idols on accident, it's not on purpose. But yeah, I would really recommend them. But I mean, as far as like mainstream idols go, my favorite group is the World Standard. I really recommend them. They have almost a decade worth of discography at this point, ranging from like rock to hyper pop to all kinds of stuff. So I really recommend them. Like Fruit Sipper is really popular right now. They have a really good like kawaii vibe. And obviously, you know, groups like AKB48 are always going to be at the top of the list, I think. Even though I'm not a huge fan of them anymore, but it's hard not to recommend them. They are an idol staple, I feel.
Yeah, they're, I guess, like the first thing you like think about when you talk about like idols.
They're a lot of people's introduction, I think, because people will even hear about them obviously from like K-pop and stuff like that too now, which is why I usually recommend other groups so that people can see the like kind of variety in idols. But you know, the blueprint, the history, most Florida culture like got popularized because of AKB48, so they're hard to ignore, I think.
Well, I think that's like most of my questions, but we do end off with a segment called The Worst Pep Talk Ever. So, I usually do this with like my Oshis on What Life Called when I have like a minute left. I did it in the previous episodes with Phoebe and Royal, and I am going to do it here now. You can see zero. Oh, you can see 6 free nuggets. Oh my god. 0 0 0 0. I want one. 0 0, and we're gonna start the timer. Alex, you've been through the ringer. You've been through everything. You've been here. Well, you've been in the scene forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, and and you'll definitely see this scene grow. Absolutely grow. Hopefully. Please, because like this scene definitely needs to grow. It definitely needs to break out of this niche, community. And hopefully with these events and Idol Party, Northwest, Eternal Hoshi, I know you guys are in there. Like it'll grow and and I can't wait for your next release, original song. I love the stuff. I love No Thanks to You. Go listen to No Thanks to You, please. And please. And buy Alex's stuff on pinkuplanet.com. You can use code SPRINGCLEANING50 to get 50% off. And I'm definitely over the minute, but you are awesome, and you will keep being awesome. And yes, we are over time, but yes, that has been the worst pep talk ever.
I thought it was pretty good.
No,
I enjoyed it. Hey, you plugged my store, so I mean, that works for me.
Yeah, please buy stuff on Alex's store, because I did, I think, a couple days ago. But yeah.
Yeah.
And
I really appreciate it, and I think that this type of stuff is what builds this community. So I really appreciate you doing this. Obviously, I really appreciate you having me, but just in general, I hope that you continue to have these and upload them, because people will be able to look back on it even a year from now and be able to see and compare and contrast how the community continues to grow. So
For sure.
love it.
I am planning to like keep for I guess like once a week. Because like if I do like 2, 3, 4 times a week, I am going to absolutely stress myself out. But
Even once a week,
once a week.
I commend you.
Yeah, once a week. If you want to watch VODs, especially the VOD of this episode, which will be uploaded tomorrow, go subscribe to the IDOLEYEZ YouTube channel. You can watch the previous the previous episodes with episode 1 with Phoebe, episode 2 with Royal, aka Royal Bucks, and then tomorrow you can probably watch you will watch the VOD of this episode with Alex Pinku. I guess that has been it for this episode, but don't you worry, folks. Next week, we have a guest on, and we will be revealing this guest right now in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wow!
Oh boy. I hate that sound! Why would you do that? Why would you do that? How am I so—
The bubble tea and K-pop loving Pomeranian, Crystal is an idol VTuber who has released several song covers and her first original song in September 2023. She's also a former member of a kaigai idol group in the past. And next week, she'll be on the show to discuss her time as a member, the transition as a VTuber idol, and what's next for her. All eyes on me. IDOLEYEZ, Episode 4, Crystal, aka Crystal Milk Tea, Wednesday, May 29th, 8 p.m. EDT, 5 p.m. PDT, only on twitch.tv/EggyDrago. Yes. Oh,
Whoa.
yeah. Whoa. We have next week, we have a former member of a former idol group in Crystal Milk Tea, aka Crystal. They'll be on to talk about their experience being in that idol group that I cannot name. I'm probably gonna name, or we'll probably talk about it next week. But yeah, they are a former member of that group, and yeah, very interesting to have like the present era of kaigai idols with you and Phoebe, the future with future/present with Royal, and now
Yeah.
I guess I get to talk about like the past with someone who was like previously in a idol group. So that is gonna be next week, next Wednesday. So it's slightly inconsistent, but I have to fit like whatever time is fine with our guests, because like
Everyone's got a real life, you know?
yeah, everyone's got a real life. I can't do like like with a wrestling show Friday nights or Monday nights. It's fine. It's good because like whatever fits the guest schedule. But like yeah, Crystal Milk Tea next Wednesday, 8 p.m. PDT, 5 p.m. EDT, and yeah, that has been IDOLEYEZ episode 3. Alex, do you have like anyone you want to raid specifically? If not,
Nobody I know is online, unfortunately.
all right, let's see. Is there anyone idol related that I am following? Is Phoebe on? No, she's not.
Oh, actually, there is a creator who also makes instructional idol content. Their on Twitch is Meow It's Martha.
Oh,
They also do like VTubing stuff, but was my vocal coach for a period of time. But they're online, so you could rate them.
Hey,
They're
Phoebe.
playing Yakuza right now.
oh, wait, I am following them. Oh, okay. I didn't realize I was. We'll
There
be
you go.
rating. Meow, it's Martha who's playing some Yakuza 5 remastered. They're 22 minutes in, so they just completely just started. So we'll be rating
Yeah.
that. Yeah, this was fun.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for accepting this, because like I was so scared for people to not accept the invitation, especially with Phoebe. I was like, oh my god, oh no, is anyone gonna accept this like starting out thing, this like
Yeah.
thing that has like no no like I guess like no backing or whatever.
Yeah,
but,
it's
like,
hard to know like what's trustworthy and what's not when it's starting out. But no, this was a lot of fun.
So, take care, brush your hair, be kind, and rewind. We'll be going to the ending screen, and we'll be going to Meow It's Martha stream. Oh wait, go do IDOLEYEZ raid. Do that, IDOLEYEZ. I have to do a command for that. Yeah, go there, do that. Wahoo! Ending screen. Alex, any last words?
Have fun. Be safe.
Stay safe. All right. Ending screen. Woo!